News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Welcome to Tool Talk Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning.
I'm Allan Gilbreth, darkoakmedia.com.
And I'm Maximilian. And Joe, just for you, a deep cut from your past. I want to wish you a very happy St. Vitus Day.
Oh, really? St. Vitus is one of my favorites, Allan. You know, he's the patron saint of comedians, so we need his help for sure.
How's it going?
I talk to that guy a lot.
You might want to up the contact. You might want to step that up.
St. Vitus, and of course we all know, well, no, we don't. I only learned later in life about St. Vitus dance, that weird thing that happened back in the, 1400s?
Yeah, do you dance till you died?
Dance till you
that was
You can
collapsed.
dance
fun.
if you want to.
Okay, excellent. And there is conjecture that the safety dance has to do with St. Vitus dance, right?
I can't imagine, because a modern rock band did a music video at a Renaissance festival.
Okay, there you go. So, well, if you're out there and you need help being funnier, talk to St. Vitus. He knows how to take care of it. So, but speaking of being funny, you know who's coming in today later, Allan? Our good buddy, Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling.
Awesome.
Now, he wants to talk beyond, we're going to talk obviously about what's going on in his business, but he's going to be joining us because, boy, we talk about legends in this world, but we really did lose a legend here. We lost the late, great Fred Smith. We are going to salute that man. And, here in Memphis, he is real. What would Memphis look like without him,
He's
Allan?
like the Nick Newport Jr. of Memphis.
Is he?
Like the Sweetums factory, Parks and Rec.
Okay, Max.
Well, we've had a history of, I'm going to say, mavericks.
But Maverick's
'cause
a good word for that guy, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, Fred Smith had this crazy idea, and then he went to this city in the middle of every place and went, take a deep breath and buckle up, children. Here we go. And because, we're going back to, let's see, where was he in college? It's the late 60s. Federal Express Corporation was, incorporated in 1971.
Okay.
So we got a lot of history to play with.
Yeah, and plus, logistics, outside of the box thinking. There's going to be a lot in there, and I'm sure Jay's going to want to chime in on that conversation too. So, but also, let's see, we've got. I guess this is going to be your week. I'm looking at my notes here. I'm kind of through trying to describe your week anymore. It looks like another one of these where we would need 5 shows to talk about Allan's
Let's
week
just
in
say
review.
my week even involves a kaiju.
Okay, we got a lot, but it would be a dereliction of duty if we don't talk to Max about his epic tool tale this week. He got himself out of some hot water, literally, and we're going to talk about that coming up. And, of course, we would love to hear from you, dear listeners. But before we get to any of those things, now, Allan, I'm not holding this thing up. I'm holding a picture of it up because it was kind of dirty and oily, and I took a picture of it out on the parking lot and brought it in. But tell people what we're holding up.
You are holding up what is affectionately known as the multi-facet trailer hitch.
Yeah.
AKA, it's got the different size hitch balls.
Right.
And yours features something I haven't seen since Texas. That's a big old hook.
Yeah.
That's for your chain.
So our must-have item of the week, I think the technical term is a tri-ball. Let's see. It's a multi-ball trailer hitch with hook. Mm-hmm. Not the best branding, but folks, you've probably seen it. If you've got any kind of tow package on your car, some cars that even have a tow capabilities. But to me, Allan, it's sort of a no-brainer. So this one, if you go to the big box store and you want to buy a trailer hitch connector, I've noticed. Okay, so you have one where I think I want to say the standard size is like 2 1/8 inches or something.
Yes.
Is sort of the small. Then it goes up to like 2 5/16 and 2 1/4, whatever. And boy, you need the exact size ball opening, or it's going to either fall off or it's not going on. But here's the thing: I was going to buy one, and I was like, okay, it was $30 or something.
Right.
For the extra $20, you get all 4.
Yes.
Instead of just one. I'm like, well, it seems to me, why not do that? So that's what I did. But Because every trailer is different, and sometimes, if you go to U-Haul or you go someplace, even if you're not planning on towing things a lot, it gives you a lot of flexibility here. So, but the chain is, the hook is the one I haven't used yet. So
that's the one where it gets kind of fun. The hook is for dragging stuff up and out of things.
It looks like you'd have to have a pretty serious chain, because I feel like I've tried to attach something to that and it was too big, like it wouldn't fit through the loop or something.
Right,
like
you got to have some hardware to use that. Yes, they're not playing. That's for like trying to get the tractor up the hill. No, I'm serious. I'm dead serious. Those things will move. See, and the biggest thing, and I'm going to throw in an unusual use for that thing, and that is the protection of your vehicle in a rear-end collision.
I
got news for you from personal experience. That trailer hitch will minimize the damage of whatever happened to the backside of your vehicle.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that makes sense. Yeah, because if you hit that thing's
pretty solid, man.
The only thing is, when you leave it in there, you've seen. I've seen the videos. People aren't paying attention, and they're walking around their vehicle with their bag of groceries, and they whack their shin, because this does. It's a shin level.
It sticks out.
But also, I would say, if you are planning on getting yourself a trailer hitch, spend the extra, whatever it is, $15. And they have a little, there's that little, whatever you want to call it, lock. There's a little pin that goes on the inside of it. Well, they make one that has a lock on it.
Right. They have
otherwise,
a cotter pin. Right.
Anybody could just pull this out and take it. And, your trailer hitch is only as safe as your strongest lock on there or something. But it's handy. And, I don't see why you wouldn't just spend the extra $20 and get the multi whatever, It looks like it would make kind of a good primeval weapon, too, if it ever came to it. Yeah.
Yes, it does. It does. I assure you. The biggest thing is especially if you work in a dynamic environment where you don't know what you're going to run into on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
Makes a big difference. Yeah. Oh, yeah, because of, case in point, that exact tool of we were clearing a lot, and it turned out that there were like 3 different trailers in the back of the lot.
Oh, okay. You were clearing a lot, not clearing a lot.
Well, both. Yes, D. We were clearing a lot of junk off of a lot. And in the back of it, of course, you discover sticking out of the weeds, hey, there's a trailer here.
Right.
And there were honestly all 3 size trailers.
Yeah.
Just back to back, where somebody had used the little one, the middle, and the big one. And actually having that, swapped it around, hooked it up, drug the first one out, put it up where we could get to it and clean it up. It was awesome.
It's very handy, and it's like, and like I said, it's not that much more to just get that one. And so, and because I had one occasion where I was picking up a trailer and it was off, but it was just not quite the right size, and it will not fit.
No,
you can't sledgehammer it on. It won't. It's precise, so it may not look very precise, but it is. So, but all right, well, there you go. That's a and I'm not going to say they're indestructible, but they feel pretty darn indestructible. They feel very stout.
They're very sturdy.
Yeah.
They're not known for failure.
Exactly. So, okay, there you go. That's your must-have item of the week. But, Allan, we have got to shift gears here, man.
And now, Tool Tales with Tool Talk Radio.
All right, before I throw it to you, Max, I just want to say, because I know you don't brag about yourself, Allan, I was thoroughly impressed. Max had to borrow a few pliers and vice grips from me for a project he was telling me about. But go ahead, Max. This was cool.
So context. I was on my way to my Aikido dojo when I noticed the thermostat levels were rather spiked, and I heard a sizzling from my car. Turns out I had a radiator leak.
Oh, wow.
And
that stinks. Yeah.
Fortunately for me, on my Pathfinder, not to sound like like an advertisement, but fortunately for me on my Pathfinder, the radiator was fairly easy to access. And so after minimal research with regards to how to replace the radiator, I found upon myself a little passion project this week.
Yeah. Yeah, and changing a radiator can be a beast, man. Have you ever had one of those, Allan?
Oh, I've changed many of them over the years. So In the Pathfinders, I'm remembering you do have a kind of an open air area you can reach through.
Which I appreciated.
Yeah, you find out real quick a little extra space goes a long way.
Oh, yeah.
The biggest things to remember is, A, don't do it while it's hot.
Yeah, no kidding. So, yeah.
You'd be surprised the number of people like, well, I'm going to take that cap off. Like, no, you're not. No. You're going to wait about an hour before you get to this.
That was actually the most tedious part of the project is having to burp the engine.
Yep.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yep. Because, all right, the biggest thing to this is don't be in a hurry. I'm looking at him going, I know he took his time. And, there is a certain, all right, anytime you work on any piece of equipment, whether it's a tractor or anything, there is a certain zen to it, a certain logic.
Yeah. Well, there's a little more to share when we come back here on Tool Talk Radio, learning all about Max's tool tale.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
I used to be like Leo, sitting around all day wasting my life, but then one day the smoke cleared.
See, Brad, he had an epiphany.
Actually, I ran out of weed and the smoke cleared. But then I saw how trashed my apartment was, so I rebuilt it. Been a contractor ever since.
Well, I'm sold.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
I don't know what I just heard, Alan, but it sounded pretty good. I think that's some from the 70s show or something, Max. You get these deep cuts. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning. Here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max over there behind the glass. And we were in the middle of what I consider to be a very impressive tool tale. And with stereotypical humility, Max, you're really underselling how epic this was. I mean, your radiator blew out, and you have very limited auto repair experience, and you said, I'm not paying somebody to do this. I'm going to educate myself and do it myself. And I came by, I loaned you a few tools. I came by and watched some of your work, and Max, that's not easy to do. Allan, you know how we talk about you have to have the attitude to do something and the bravado. And Max, I was really impressed, man. So.
Well, I guess to quote Ducard from Batman Begins, it's about the will to act.
Exactly, yeah. Well, your training means nothing. It's all about the will to do. So, I was in it, and it worked, right? There's no leaks. You fixed
nothing.
it.
No, there was a thing that was of concern, but it probably had to do with, like, when I was removing hoses, it was sort of I guess it leaked a little bit onto, like, parts of the engine, and it made it look like there was a leak somewhere. The thing about when you're repairing something like this, any project I guess you could sympathize with, is it makes you realize the tools you wish you had after the fact. For example,
that's the name of auto repair.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Like, for example, having to deal with a lot of hose clamps. Hose clamps are the bane of my existence.
Those things
I had to use, like, vice grips, but even then they didn't really work well. So there's these things called hose clamp pliers, so that next time if I have to do anything, I'm going to recourse to those instead.
It's funny, too, because I was looking at, I watched a video on this after you were telling me about it, Max, and you look at, and there's, get your such and such socket wrench, get your this, get your that, and then, use these pliers, but it turns out the pliers are like the biggest part of the job. And it's always, that's why I hate auto repairs myself, Allan, because you look at it and you're like, okay, this is the part that's going to be hard, and this over here is going to be the easy part, and it's always the exact opposite.
No. And the other thing is, as with any repair on almost anything, it is astounding the number of tools it takes to perform this function.
Mm-hmm.
Because, let's see, of hose clamps, and of course then you had the screw down clamps, so you had a flathead screwdriver.
Yes.
Let's see, you wish you'd had the wire clamps. What about once you got into the hoses, what about that that thing that works on temperature there, Max?
Well, after I got it done and after I burped the engine, I spent a pretty penny on my coolant because I filled the coolant up thinking that that it was all good, but then it turns out the thermostat was also bust.
Yeah.
So I had to go back another day and fix the thermostat.
All right, that is the big one. If you're gonna change out the radiator automatically, just instantly change out the thermostat.
Save yourself a pretty penny on your own coolant. If you already got the coolant drained, might as well do the thermostat as well.
Yes.
Yeah, because, I mean, you don't want to take everything apart. You're already right there. It's an extra, 3 bolts or something?
It is, honestly, it's right there. Let's just get it done.
The only thing that was inconvenient about the thermostat was where the bolts were, because they were located behind the serpentine belt in the fan. And so it was a little bit of an inconvenience to try to get there and try to get it screwed on. It, again, makes me think of the tools that I wish that I had, like those socket sets that have a little bit of a wiggle and pivot to them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Max, I'm interested in getting into the psychology here because I'm curious. Okay, well, you're looking at something that you've never done before. This is an engine repair. You could say, was there any moment where you were like second guessing yourself, saying, I don't know if I want to do this? Or
No, I just wanted to rip the Band-Aid off.
I think he's going to go far in life with that
Well,
attitude. Honestly, you have to be that way.
Yeah, let's face it, Joe. 90% of what we do is just having the audacity and the sweat to do it.
Mm-hmm. I think that's true. I do, and
there is a certain
I think the more
level
you
of
do it,
skill.
the more normal it feels.
Right.
But, yeah.
But if you've never put up a fence, you look at a fence and it's very daunting until you get started. Then it's kind of like, oh, there's a pattern, there's a logic.
We live in an age of information, and my thinking is if you use that information wisely, you can learn. I think anybody can become a proper DIYer, but then you could recourse to the wisdom of people that have actually been doing it hands-on for years themselves.
Yeah. No, I think you're right, Max, but I was thoroughly impressed, too, because that's I don't know. Personally, I hate auto repair, but it is a little bit more reassuring these days because you can pretty much pull up a YouTube video on just about any project, and that is helpful.
I will say I'm a little bit elitist about the difference between cars that are a little bit more aged and a little bit more modern. I think the modern cars are a little bit more overly complicated. Like, there's a lot of failure points because of all these little sensors and electric stuff inside the cars. I think if you have a car that's just kind of raw car, so to say, with no fancy bells and whistles, I think it's easier to repair.
Yeah.
You are correct.
It's funny, though, Allan, because I was talking to, I talked to our buddy Bud the other day.
Wow, good.
Former programming engineer over here. And he was telling me, he's like, it's a trade-off because we were talking about that exact thing because he goes to these car shows where they have classic cars.
Oh, yes.
Well, I'm sorry. I mean, one of my favorite vehicles I ever owned was a 72 Cutlass convertible, but you get, remember those? If you get to 100,000 miles, you start feeling like we might be reaching the end of the lifespan of this vehicle, and now my vehicle is getting close to 300,000 miles, and it drives great. And so I don't know. Modern cars do have their advantages too. So
I don't know. I felt the same way about old cars.
Did you?
Yeah.
Have you ever gotten 300,000 miles out of
several?
Now, I'd be interested in what the listeners think of this because I sort of miss the days of just simple, roll down hand crank windows. But I don't know. I guess it's a trade-off.
All right. When it comes to mechanical, and we're going to encompass all of the tools we use, all of the big tools we could use, including your vehicle, whether it's a pickup truck or a modern battery-powered anything, there is a maintenance and repair cycle that must take place. And older vehicles, it was because we didn't have the refined materials we have today, it was critically important that if you needed to change that oil every 3,000 miles, you got in there and changed that oil every 3,000 miles. Most people did not do that.
Yeah.
And having my entire career being based on maintenance and preventative work, I am the massive proponent of, was this done in time? Because you are saving yourself so much wear, so much tear, and yeah, it's time, and yeah, it's inconvenient, and no, you don't want to go out there on a Sunday afternoon when it's blazing hot and change out your oil, but today, you've got a lot of services that are more than happy to do that for you, but you got to get it done.
Yeah, That's true. So, but I don't know. It is sort of a trade-off. I guess it's that way with certain devices too, because I'm just thinking there was this sewing machine, and you've probably seen this too. My mom had like this antique sewing machine. It had to be 120 years old, and it worked perfectly. It looked like you could. It looked like you could anchor a boat with it. I mean, it was cast iron or whatever, but it was simple. It had like 3 functions,
and it had the
looked
rocker at the bottom.
indestructible.
Had a rocker plate at the bottom, which is actually how the needle went up and down.
Right, and then you have some modern ones where there's like 8,000 functions on it, but one little thing and it's out of business.
I almost wonder if we're overcomplicating things and we need to return to a little bit more simplicity in our tech.
I'm kind of wondering that too, man. Yeah, I mean, I think that's what I was just thinking is like when you have so many, like when I look at these smart refrigerators, do I really need Wi-Fi on my refrigerator? Do I need a TV screen?
Do I need my toilet to talk to me?
Yeah. All these failure points.
I made a washer and dryer salesperson cry this week.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh. I had to replace my washer and dryer this week, so I got that feeling.
Yeah, and it's interesting. So I think we can go overboard. I think there's something to be said for just just simple functions, not having all the bells and whistles. And anyway, but I'd love to know what the listeners think about that too. I know there's probably techie people out there that are just they want the latest devices,
right?
And whatever. But all right, hey, I think Jay's outside. I better go check. And so I think when we come back, we're going to visit with our good buddy Jay Hill from Big M Roofing and Remodeling.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
When Pam gets Michael's old chair, I get Pam's old chair. Then I'll have 2 chairs. Only one to go.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
Max, was that a behind-the-scenes little peek at the curtain there with that chair reference? So
there are 3 chairs vacant.
We're having some chair issues this morning.
Somebody took my chair.
And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com. Our pal Max over there behind the glass. And in the house, punctually and on time, our good buddy Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling. Nice. Finally, Jay, we've settled on this as your walk-up music.
You can get a root canal, or that could be my walk-up music. They both work.
I kind of like this. What is this one called, Max?
It's called Building Blocks.
I'm okay with this.
This is how you feel after you get your new roof.
It sounds like Tetris for kids.
Well, this is described as children edutainment.
Hey, you know what, Max, this is better than a lot of the ones you've been pulling up for him the last several weeks. So, but
I think my walk-up music will always be that we don't have any, and we'll try a new one every time I come. That's where it's headed.
I think that's the running gag. Jay.
Yeah.
But hey, Jay, how's it going, my friend?
Doing good, man. How about you guys?
Well, I think we're doing good, Allan. So, I mean,
big rainstorm smiled at my roof.
It's actually sunny.
Walked out and said something nice about you.
Either it smiles or it doesn't.
Yeah,
right?
I walked out and said several nice things about you.
We're no surprise to anybody or no news to anyone. The hot stuff has gotten here.
Hell yeah.
And we went from it wouldn't stop raining until we couldn't get nothing done to it's gotten so hot. It's really hotter, I believe, earlier than it ever has been for this time in June. And here we go, laying a lot of roofs, doing a lot of exterior work, and just really watching our crews, especially our roofing crews, just making sure that everybody stays hydrated and takes care of themselves. Because, I mean, it's brutal up there right now, really.
I've been on your job sites before. In fact, when I was watching when you were putting our roof on, and I will say that for you, Jay. Jay's out there. He pulls up. He's telling the guys to take a break. Given you're rolling up there with your cases of Gatorade and everything else, and that is important. So
I try.
Keep them happy. Maybe that's why you guys are successful, Jay, because your team seems pretty happy with things, and it's a positive job site.
Yeah, it's definitely a two-way deal. I mean, we pride ourselves in our craftsmen and the guys that hold any post in any of the trades that we do. And I'm one of the blessed ones that have had 80% of them with me for over 6 years now. And that's unheard of, really, because most folks kind of, in a lot of trades, but especially, or any job, a lot of jobs, but especially in construction trades, they'll go across the street and leave their vehicle in your parking lot for 15 cents an hour. I mean, it's crazy how things happen, but I've been blessed. And I do believe that it's more than just a paycheck. It is the communication, and, when something needs to change, we change it, and I listen to what they've got to say because I trust them. And bringing a breakfast, bringing a lunch, bringing some snacks, some popsicles, some fruit, things like that, I believe it makes a difference.
Well, we always talk about a positive business culture, Allan. I mean, and I mean, I don't know about you. I've worked for some pretty unpleasant people in the past. So I don't know. I do notice that with you, Jay, though. I mean, I have to say. So.
Well, thanks. There
was a guy I worked for in Arizona. I think I was 21 years old. And Jay, you know how hot it is in Phoenix and everything.
It is drier though. Doesn't feel as hot as it does here.
Yeah, everybody says that.
It's
when
true.
It's 125 degrees out, it's still hot.
I spent some time out in Deming, New Mexico, in Las Cruces, and I'm talking about 30-day stints about 15 years ago. And, yeah, that hot wasn't like this hot, though. I understand what you're saying. 125, it don't matter.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, it feels like 15 or so degrees difference is what I came up with in terms of the lack of humidity and the difference being, between the two here in Memphis.
Well, yeah, when you start talking 45% humidity versus 80.
Yeah.
And I was putting in a deck this week at 80% humidity, and that is just, you're just like a standing fire hose.
Mm-hmm.
You're just, you personally are just running water.
Yeah.
Because it is just miserable. You can't get dry.
I was listening to a comedian not long ago, and he was talking about a first date with a girl out in that part of the world, and it was 105 degrees that day. And he said that the girl asked him on the phone, did he think that she needed to bring a sweater, for the night? And he said, do you understand what kind of meteorological event would have to happen for it to drop 60 degrees where you would need a sweater tonight?
Yeah. Well, you get out in that desert, man, they got some 30, 40 degree temperature swings between day and night. It's a little weird. It can be honestly,
it can get weird.
It can be 100 degrees during the day and something down in the 60s at night.
Well, Jay, so what's the now that I guess the weather's cleared up a little bit, but what are you guys working on these days? So
I mean, it's pretty much the same stuff, but a lot more of it. We couldn't get anything done for those 3-4 weeks of pretty much 4 and 5 day a week rain that we had in May. So now we're just trying to play catch up. We've had to work a lot of weekends. Of course, we don't work on Sundays, but we've burned the midnight oil, and we've worked some Saturdays for sure. Bunch of roofs, a lot of paint. I mean, literally everything I do, we've been doing the last 2-3 weeks since the rain kind of let up a little bit last couple of weeks. Painting jobs up in Atoka, big job out on Prescott. And this is kind of cool. I've always been a big fan of the Better Business Bureau because I believe that, it's an unvetted way vetted way for a customer to be able to, look for a contractor and get something that's not, it's not skewed by a bunch of other ways that you can do that with the internet and so on and so forth. And I got a call from a lady from Atlanta, Georgia, who owns a property here, who found me from the Better Business Bureau. Which is, that was exciting to start with. And she used to do some marketing for the Better Business Bureau when she lives here. But she's the building inspector in Atlanta, Georgia.
Oh, that's something.
We end up hitting it off over the phone, and she's got a rental property over on Prescott, and, $25,000 later, she's coming in today to see the finished work. And asked me, I love this, asked me, will I have a ladder available? I said, yeah, I keep one in my truck in case somebody wants to use it.
Yeah.
And I said, you need a ladder? She said, yeah, I want to get up on my roof. So
great.
how about?
Yeah.
I mean, boy, if that's not a match made in heaven. I don't mean for me.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah. If you're a guy in construction, you want something in common with somebody. Your girl get on a roof. I believe you should get married.
There you go. So okay. She wants to inspect the job, basically.
She's going to look at it all. I've been sending her photos and everything looks good. But yeah, and I'm proud for her to get up there because this house took on a real transformation.
Is this one of these older houses?
Yeah, it was built in probably on Prescott 40s.
Oh yeah, 40s. I'm sure.
It could be earlier, but yeah, probably in the 40s.
Yeah, what is that like, Jay? Because though there's a big difference between a house built 20 years ago versus 80 years ago.
It's funny you bring that up because, I mean, this one had some of those things. These are things that you see rarely. It had a garage that literally had 2x12 decking. 2x12.
Really?
Decking. I'm talking about that thick and that long.
Yep, the slats.
I mean...
It's a lot more weight to throw on the roof, right?
Guess what?
I mean, that's like double.
None of it need to be replaced.
No.
I mean, it was mind-blowing.
Why do you think they did that? Is it just...
I think that's back at the end of what we see when we do one toward Midtown. I think that was when there were still, lumber mills down the road, and you go get that rough-sawn lumber, and you buy it for a song, and you throw it up there, and there it is.
Well, I wondered about that because, in fact, there was a part of my roof that you had to replace. And I'm always amazed that you have roofs that have slats on it because you might need to nail right into that one little spot and there's a gap and everything. It seems to me like it's not as good of a design as having like plywood, right?
That's one of those things that people just have an opinion about, and you can't really dispute either one, because what you say is true.
Yeah.
You can miss a nail in a pattern and on that line when you've got one bias. But I can tell you that nail's in there better than it would be if it were in plywood.
Well, that's true.
You can rip off a plywood deck, 5 times quicker than you can a one-by deck. These were particularly difficult to get out of this garage that we did.
I can't imagine that 2x12s pulling roofing nails out of that must have been miserable, man. So.
There was a couple of layers too. It took a little while.
Oh man,
it took a little while.
All right, Jay, how do people get in touch with you if they want to contact Big M Roofing and Remodeling?
Well, give me a call. I get calls all the time to my personal number at 901-484-5645. That's 901-484-5645. And I've got a great website, which is bigmroofingandremodeling.com. You got to spell that out, but it's worth it. All my credentials, a full gallery, what we do and how we do it is right there for you.
Are you ever going to put a picture of our roofs on there, Jay? Mine and Allan's got a roof, and I got a roof. And
Absolutely. Tim Van Horn's got a roof.
I bet you put his up before ours, didn't you?
No, I just put his up a couple weeks ago.
No, the picture. I want to go to your website and see a picture of my roof on there. So.
Well, we can absolutely. Y'all's might actually be there, but I'm not sure.
All right, we'll go on there and check it out.
Take shots. I want to put them on. I
okay.
Really do.
All right, we're going to continue visiting with our good buddy Jay Hill when we come back here on Tool Talk Radio.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
You've got paper and you've got paint. A deadly combination! Let me show you.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com. Our pal Max over there behind the glass, and in the house, our good buddy Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling. If you're just tuning in, you should know today is the feast day of St. Vitus, who is the patron saint of comedians. Jay, I talk to him every day.
Yeah.
You might want to talk to him and get some help.
I actually didn't know that, but I'm a big fan of comedy, so yeah.
There you go. So, and Allan, we were talking about some stuff off the air. I hope you're going to bring it up here. But before we get to that, Max, I think we have a text. Is that right?
Correct. We have a series of texts, but it's all from our buddy Brew Blaster.
Oh, is he on a roll? Has he been caffeinated this morning or what? So.
Is he on top of the brews?
Okay, so what does Brew Blaster have to say?
Well, this is commenting about my, quote unquote, according to you, my epic adventure tool tale
Quit underselling it, Max. You should be proud of yourself. Max did that whole repair.
It's unbelievable.
Jay. I mean, I'm impressed. So,
Me
and
too.
you held that socket wrench with authority too. So, well, what did Brew Blaster have to say?
He said, yes, we do need to return to simpler things because real advancement is simplicity. New cars have become appliances. And he said, I worked on cars for 15 years, and I saw how designs become design failures with ease of assembly being the main thing for cost and no consideration given to disassembly. New cars are designed to fail.
Gee, I feel like he was shouting at his computer as he typed that in, or his phone. Yeah, Brew Blaster, amen, brother. I don't disagree with a lot of that. And he worked on it, so he was in the trenches there. So
yeah, I remember when you used to. I'm thinking about when I was Max's age and I was a grease monkey, and I had a '70 Challenger.
Ooh,
yeah, and you could just jump right in that fender well, buddy, and you could go to town. I mean, everything was right there, and you could get things done. Man, today, not so much.
I had a 55 Dodge Royale. You could have moved families into that thing.
Oh, boy.
I had a sled,
Royale.
man. I had a big baby.
Yeah.
But everything was easy to get to, easy to find, and you didn't have to disassemble half of the engine block to get to anything. You pop open, we all work with crews and stuff like that, and somebody's car doesn't start, so you go
gotta
over
go
and
help them.
You pop the hood, and you pop the hood out of anything made in the last 10 years. I don't even know what I'm looking at anymore.
Yeah, that was actually the most tedious part of my adventure was having to remove all the cosmetic stuff or like the fan stuff. What's deterred me from tucking into replacing the spark plugs is how many of the unnecessary extra doodads you have to remove.
Doodads.
Remember changing spark plugs, Jay? And you pull the wire
20
off,
minutes,
you change
it's
it,
over.
and you're done. Yeah, now it's like you got to move that shroud, you got to do all this other stuff.
Yeah, and isn't that automobile story that he's talking about there about how complicated they've become really an example of about just society in general? Nothing's easy anymore, man. I mean, they say it's easy, but it's not.
But we've made it not easy for ourselves.
I think it's interesting what Brew Blaster said about it being an appliance instead of, because I mean, Jay, I don't know about you, but I form emotional attachments with certain vehicles. Like I had a 72 Cutlass convertible, and that is still my favorite vehicle of all time.
Cutlass.
Yeah. But now it was, it needed work, but whatever. But Brew Blaster, that was pretty good. I like that.
That's good stuff.
Yeah.
All I got to say is when a vehicle gets bought by me, it looks up and goes, really? Did you have to wear the cowl in the side? Every vehicle I buy knows its fate eventually. So.
Okay. Anyway.
But, Jay, I had an interesting one for you that I thought of you this week. And It was just one of these things where there had been some decorative feature in the front yard made out of wood, and now it is a 10-foot tall wavy stack of wisteria.
Wow.
Is that vine?
That's that vine stuff. I mean, it looks
beautiful. Is it
beautiful.
the one that's got like the grippers and stuff?
Well, all of the vines have some way of grabbing hold of something, whether it's grapevine. The one I really, really don't like is English ivy.
Yeah.
Because that's the one that actually has like the little footings that actually eat into the side of the wood or the siding.
Man.
So how much do you run into that?
You'd be surprised.
Yeah.
Obviously a lot of that would be more your Midtown area, Germantown, Collierville, a lot of the more expensive homes. And we run into it all the time. Of course, I think where you're going with this is, how do you deal with that if you've got to come in and put siding on or you've got to put on a roof and this stuff is just kind of taken over? And obviously the answer is it's a problem and it's got to be cut back severely. If you're replacing siding totally and it's grown up the whole facet on the side of a house, for instance, it's not that big of a deal because you're pulling all the siding off anyway. But if you're just wanting to paint that siding, it's going to be cheaper to probably re-side it than it is to get that off and get to get that surface prepped right. Where you don't see what you were talking about,
those little gripper things,
3 little
they take
feet
forever.
that are there where the ivy will literally just kind of latch on to whatever that surface is. I mean, I love the ivy. when it's full grown and it's really covered up, really nice. But you got to do it on brick. You do, and you got to cut it back when it gets above a facet that might go to a different type of material, like hardy or whatever it might be, because you can't get it off, man.
But even brick, Jay, you sort of triggered me with this, Allan, because with brick, if there's a seam, it could conceivably start growing into your wall and separating. I am not a fan of any plant touching the house, period. If you want that look of ivy growing up the side, I say get one of those trellises and make sure it's away from the house where it can't possibly
That'd be me too. That'd be me too. I mean, I can appreciate it when I see it, but I can also identify where it's been a problem for me trying to do stuff for folks, and it's been a problem for them.
Yeah, gosh, you really got me upset because I'm thinking of past jobs where somebody would say, "I want you to build me a pergola." I'm like, okay. Right. And I'm going to grow all this stuff up the side. I'm like, I'll be happy to build it for you, but I'm not standing behind this for more than 6 months because if I build something, I build it with the intention that it's going to be there 50 years later. Right. But not with plants growing all over it. I can't control that. It's going to rot. It's going to separate. It's going to, you know what I mean? So it's like.
And bizarrely, the other thing I discovered, and I posted this picture a while back of working on a job site out in Fayette County, is a huge cedar tree. And the cedar is very thick and lush and beautiful. And the tornado missed my job site by 40 feet.
Oh, wow.
However, it picked up the cedar tree, knowing that I love plants, and placed it in the bed of my truck.
I didn't know that.
Now that's interesting. You see it that way, huh?
Nature just went. Oh, he likes plants. Yeah. Here you go. Have one of these, and picked up a monstrous cedar tree. And honestly, of course, we're all in the house working. Mm-hmm. We didn't realize it had gone by that close till one of the guys walks in and goes, "Hey, dude, where's your truck?"
Oh, wow.
What do you mean, where's my truck? Walk out there and there's a tree.
Yeah.
So the one thing I've discovered is these things build up a lot of wind resistance.
Okay.
So if you have a pergola or these lovely additions outside, that wisteria, that grapevine, that English ivy adds a lot of resistance. And next time you have the big storm and it's blowing and it's hitting that stuff like a wind sail, it can and will pull it over.
Oh, I was going to say, I thought you meant it would anchor it in. But
no,
it's going to yank it with it.
It'll break that baby right off.
Okay. Well, got hour one of Tool Talk Radio is in the can. But, Jay, this conversation is sparking more questions that I want to run by you, Jay. So we're going to continue visiting with our good buddy Jay Hill when we come back here on Tool Talk Radio.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com, our pal Max over there behind the glass, and in the house, our good buddy Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling. If you're just tuning in, a little later in the show, we are going to pay tribute to the late and great Fred Smith, and come on, a legend here in the Mid-South and really worldwide. And also just reminding you that today is the feast day of St. Vitus. Sorry, Allan, but he's one of my favorite saints, so I keep driving that home. And Jay, as I said, he's the patron saint.
I can't wait for you safety dance out of here.
Yeah, exactly. So, folks, if you ever want to find an interesting story, go on YouTube and look up the episode of the dancing plague of 15, what was it? It was 1518 or something, and weird, and it's tied into St. Vitus dance. But hey, Jay, before the break, we were talking a little bit about Allan triggered me with his plant talk about plants coming up the side of your home and the damage that can do to your home. You got to really think twice before you let anything grow into your house, but that affects insurance too, right?
It does. We've had a rash of phone calls from customers who have received letters from their insurance companies where an inspector has driven by their home, taken some photographs of all aspects that they could see, from the front of the house. And some of those have included some shrubbery that is kind of grown out of hand. And they're telling them they need to get it cut back real quick, need to fix these few shingles, need to do something with this front facet, need to move this, do that. Or they're going to cancel their homeowners, and they mean it. And this is
I never thought of them doing that.
Let me tell you, this is the insurance company's answer to not buying these roofs and buying these claims like they have for the last 25 years. It really kind of started in around 2000, and the insurance company says, yeah, I get it. It says right there in our policy that if we've got damage, we've got to replace it, okay? But it also says that the homeowner is responsible for taking care of their property, okay? And that means all phases of it. So now they're putting the entire burden back onto the homeowner or policyholder and telling them when they know they've got a 20-year-old roof, if you don't replace it in the next year, we're going to cancel you or we're going to exclude the roof from your policy. They're putting it back on the homeowner now. So it's just never, ever been more important that when you've got some kind of issue with your home and you're not sure about it, you think it may or may not be covered by your insurance, that you talk to somebody that knows how to help navigate that. These insurance companies are not your friends. They are not your friends.
Well, and Jay, you it's almost like you said, like a legal advocate. But it's interesting. When I think of my homeowner's insurance, I just think of this company far off that's sort of a little bit detached. But you're saying they're out there checking out properties. And I mean,
spending $5 billion a year telling you why they're on your side, that they're there for you, and they're your neighbor. That's what they're doing. And that's what's in our deal. I'm not saying they're bad people. Don't misunderstand what I mean. But they're all the same. They are profit-driven companies that are trying to maximize profits, like a lot of companies are, and there's things you need to know, period.
Well, in fairness, too, I do see the point of, to me, it sounds a little bit, I mean, just forget about insurance or anything like that. It does sound a little bit like the difference between preventative medicine and, I mean, it's like, okay, it's not a good idea to have stuff growing into your house. And if you don't do something about it, we're going to give you incentive to do something about it. But it's like, it's just like taking care of yourself. You know, I mean, you should take, I'm a big advocate of not letting things grow into your house. It's a terrible idea.
It is. And sometimes, I think especially because, with all fairness, these customers that I have helped over the last 6 months or so, just like I said, just had a rash of them all of a sudden. But I know we're going to be seeing more. They're older people, okay? And so when you get a little bit older, those things are a little harder to do. You're probably not looking at them as close as, if you were Max's age. I mean, you're just not. So it's a wake-up call for a lot of people for sure.
Yeah. And it's, there you go, Allan, walk around your house. Because, I could think there's probably parts of your property you almost never look at for whatever reason. Maybe it's just that blind spot, but boy,
All right, just as a case in point, a house I drive by. I have nothing with this house, but I drive by it pretty much every day. And a couple of months ago, you could barely see the house. Huge, overgrown, massive tree, way too close to the front door. And I mean, all of this stuff 25 years ago probably looked magnificent. But now, and then the home changed hands. So, somebody, moved on or somebody passed away or whatever, but now there's a new sheriff in town. And the first thing we watched was, of course, the big dumpsters showed up as they were cleaning out the house and doing all the stuff. And then the yard crews began showing up.
Right.
And, well, obviously they didn't like this that the homeowner had done, so that came down, and this came down. Drove by it a couple of days ago, and there is not a tree to be seen in this property. Because everything, I'm telling you, everything was too close to the house. Well, like Joe, for your case in point, you had some limbs hanging over your house that would have took your house out.
Yeah, they were pretty bad.
So, you just periodically, it's kind of like there's a tipping point and you're going to go, let's go look at this greenery, because you got trees that volunteer that come up all the time.
Yeah.
A lot of vines. And my favorite three to pick on, grapevine, wisteria, and English ivy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't get kudzu in the city so bad. Yeah, maybe a rural problem.
That's East Tennessee special right there.
Yeah, but I don't really see it in Memphis.
No.
I got a question, because I'm the type of guy that would ask this question. Is there ever an instance where having vegetation actually around your house actually strengthens it rather than destroys it?
I bet I know what Allan's going to say. So,
in the Netherlands, they've invented a type of brick that promotes moss growth, but it's designed for it. It's like we said, like if you have the ivy over brick, the brick is designed to handle that kind of stuff. The minute it gets actually on the house, on the wood, or in the aluminum, or on the siding, now it's usually doing damage. So, now, having a good shade tree is wonderful for your air conditioning bill all summer long, so long as it's not 4 feet from the house.
Right.
Just a lot of things that I've seen in just the last couple of weeks. And like I said, Joe, you had to have a tree removed. You've had all of this work done around your house. I'm looking at this house. Now, of course, this house had the world's worst tree in the front yard.
Yeah, well,
it had the Bradford pear, the Ceylon pear. And you talk about a tree absolutely destined to fall apart and land on your house.
Yeah.
They grow too fast. They're too brittle. The limbs grow wrong. They are designed to fall apart. And this tree was huge. I mean, it wasn't a matter of if. It was a matter of when.
Right. Yeah.
So drove by and I never knew that house even had a front yard. This tree was so big. So just big stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And I tell you, before we get too far off of the point of the property inspection, I want to share something right now with the listeners that I promise that you do not know about an insurance claim. Let's say that you call in a claim because you've got some water that's coming in a ceiling in your great room, for instance. The adjuster comes. He takes pictures of that. He tries to discover what's going on. And then before you know it, he's outside. He's taking pictures of the front of your house, the side of your house, your backyard, your back facade, any outbuildings that you have, pictures of your roof, might even go on your roof. And you're going, well, why would he do that? That's what generates the inspection letter that comes back to you and says, hey, you've got this issue here. I say that because you've got to be careful. I'm not going to let you call in a claim where I know for sure that you don't have a way to go or it's less than deductible. You set yourself up somewhat if the rest of your affairs are not in order and that claim is denied, because those other things that you've got. Had a guy that was a scrapper, had 150 or better freaking refrigerators and washers and dryers in his backyard. One of the big 10 insurance companies said, you got to get that out of here.
Yeah.
All he called them over for was because he had a leaky roof. But that's the stuff that can happen, so you got to be careful.
Well, and that's why we say, Jay, we preach it from the rooftops. We're like, if you have even a question, call Jay first. So, get in touch with Jay and let him be your advocate in this process. Call 901-484-5645. So, well, Jay, we got a lot of things to discuss today. I think when we come back, what do you say, guys? We should, let's pay our respects to the late Fred Smith.
That was good.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
For $1, what tool is used to hammer a nail? Is it A, a hammer, B, a nail, C...
B, nail. Final answer.
News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis.
Jay, is that your interview process?
That went right over my head.
Okay, I don't know. It's Futurama. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning. Jay's technicians would have known that. They would have had the correct answer.
Absolutely.
Here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com, our pal Max over there behind the glass, and in the house, our good buddy Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling. And Max, I just want to say something. You know, before the break, one of your daily deviations were on, and I get people that stop me. They stop me on the street, Allan. No, not really, but I do get people that tell me how much they appreciate those things.
Well, one of my biggest flatteries is one day I was coming into the studio after Memphis Morning News, and Mick Wright was there, and he complimented that he listens to mine every day.
Yeah, you put a lot of research in. You know, Max just quietly behind the scenes, Jay, just you know, he makes some interesting content around here.
Yeah, I enjoy them. I'm one of these guys that hates repetition, so I enjoy it when the new one comes out, and then I just dread hearing the same ones over and over till the new one comes out because I like the new information,
Well,
but I really enjoy it.
Yeah, so Max, the pressure's on. You got to keep doing it. So
yeah, at least 3 times a week, Max. You can do it.
But guys, I don't know if we have music for this, do we, Max?
And now, great moments in building history.
I guess we get called that, right? The FedEx hub.
Yeah, building the.
So I mean, we did lose a legend.
That was definitely a building legend. Getting that together.
So Allan, I know around the country people know the name Fred Smith. Probably around the world too, though, don't you think? I mean, and FedEx. I mean, you talk about a revolutionary company that is still relevant today.
Well, you know, and bizarrely, we've talked about a big influence on him because we've talked about Holiday Inn.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about old
now,
Kimmons
what's the connection
Wilson
there?
Well, Kimmons knew that Memphis had the potential to be the center of the nation.
Latent potentiality, as you would say.
Yes,
Joe.
well, you know, we're right here kind of in the middle, you know, Interstate 55, I-40, big river. We were a big port. So, you know, Holiday Inn began spreading from Memphis, from Summer Avenue, the very first one back in 1955. Well, here comes Mr. Frederick Smith over at Yale, and there's this newfangled invention he wants to get into logistics called an airplane.
New? That was new for him?
1971. Think about this, Joe. We were just kind of really catching on to passenger airlines. We were there, but World War II and, you know, you could still smoke on airplanes at that day. Come on.
You could.
Yeah.
But Fred had a different idea. He had an idea that business could accelerate. We could do faster than what we had. And what we had basically was post office.
Yeah. Yeah, that was it. I mean, did we okay, what came first, UPS or FedEx? I guess
UPS was actually a grocery delivery service.
Wow, did you know that, Jay?
I did not.
That's why Allan's like a human encyclopedia. So
They started out small, but because it started working, it kept spreading. They kept getting bigger and bigger. Fred was the first one that actually went, I see a vision. And the obvious spot in his vision was kind of the birthplace of Holiday Inn. It was Memphis. Because, you know, you could basically get to anywhere else in the country in and out of the Memphis International Airport, and it had room to grow.
Well, but we're talking about speedy package delivery, right? I mean, that's what we're talking about.
Hold on to your seat. We're talking about the unheard of at the time, overnight.
Well, that's what I was wondering about, because to me it's like, okay, well, flying somewhere overnight is getting it there that way, but you got to get it to the hub, you got to organize it, you got to do the ground transportation.
Well,
there's a lot more
they weren't doing packages in the beginning. It wasn't anything but that overnight envelope. That was pretty much
$14.95, and that bad boy was absolutely positively guaranteed to get there overnight.
It was.
But
that's a great slogan, by the way. You're always going to remember that.
I'll pick on Holiday Inn because they were an early customer, because they were trying to get out to the different hotels, along with any number of other businesses. But the very first night of FedEx's operation in 1973, guess how many packages got delivered?
186.
189.
Oh.
189.
Okay.
You're almost dead on the money.
Really?
That was it. That is how they launched. 14
189.
airplanes, 389 employees, and 186 packages.
And today, what, 16, 17, 18 million a day?
Oh, it's insane what they do now. So from that first domino, because you got to look at the logistics of what this man proposed, which is why his professor at Yale went, dude, this has got too many moving parts.
No kidding, man.
Yeah.
This has got too many moving parts.
He gave him a C, didn't he?
Yeah, he said, it's just too many moving parts. You got to get,
sorry, Allan, but here's the thing. This just speaks to his personality, because I'm thinking, okay, if I was Fred Smith, another impressive slogan in 1971 would be, we absolutely guarantee to get it there within 48 hours. That's still pretty good. But
that was better than anybody else. Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know, man. You are really setting up a lot of. He
basically stole the idea of mass production and turned it into mass sorting.
Is that the key to FedEx, is the sorting?
Well, the key to FedEx is actually there in the hub, and it is the carousel. Because the real secret there is a package comes in, it has information on it. Now, also keep in mind, FedEx really caught on to the idea of computerized logistics. All right, I actually happen to be good friends with the guy who helped develop the tracking system for FedEx.
Oh, you've talked about that, yeah.
I actually, have dinner with, this is like I know a guy. This is a guy I eat with and hang out with on a regular basis. And the whole idea was that you brought a package in and it went on this carousel, and everybody on this carousel represented a route.
Oh, that's interesting.
So when it came to you, your job was to get your stuff for your route down your line. This was the old mass production line, but turned into a logistical line. Because this way you could bring in packages from anywhere, going to anywhere, and within, honestly, minutes, you could unload an entire airplane into this carousel, and within a few minutes, that carousel was cleared and all of the packages were now in subcategories and ready to move on, because everything going to Florida was now in the Florida bin, ready to go on the Florida plane.
Yeah.
It's just astounding.
I'm just thinking of about a million ways this business could just collapse.
It's
like the idea that somebody would do this is pretty bold, man.
Not only that, too, but I'm also thinking about like the conservation of energy, because it's like, all right, how do you time out your planes to go? It's like, all right, let's just say, all right, we just finally loaded up the Florida plane, but guess what? More Florida packages are coming, but the plane's already up in the air. So it's like, how do they conserve?
Yeah, and every day, some airport somewhere in the world, if not bunches of them in the tens or teens, is getting closed for something. Something's happened.
Yeah, there could be storms closing.
And that still keeps on going. It's mind-blowing.
It is just the simple, bloody mind. And, we talk about having just the audacity to do something.
The will to act.
Exactly.
This was honestly and again, like other, we have so many things in Memphis that Piggly Wiggly, the grocery store innovation, happened here.
Yeah.
The innovation in hotels happened here. The innovation of modern logistics, everything about modern logistics happened here.
Alan,
And
Go
now
ahead.
we're trying to run them off.
Yeah.
Do you think it has to do not only with the location of Memphis itself, but also what's in the air? Like the fact that, like we live in a very forested area, so maybe that makes our air very pure.
Our location, where we're located, absolutely has everything to do with a lot of this stuff, especially FedEx. 80% of the population of the country is east of here, and it is always, as everybody knows, I think, has been the distribution hub of America.
Yeah.
And beyond, and it's just in the right spot to do it.
Well, there's even more interesting facts we're going to learn about Fred Smith when we come back here on Tool Talk Radio.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
This is the best day I've ever spent in a government building, and luckily my son was here to share it with me. He now has that satisfied look that only comes with the pride of labor. Or he pooped. Either way, well done, John.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
A lot of layers in that one, Max. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com. Our pal Max over there behind the glass, and in the house, our good buddy Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling. By the way, if you do have any roofing and remodeling questions or concerns, and especially if you've got any concerns regarding homeowners' claims, it's a whole different world out there, Jay, and you are the expert. And they really, and we're serious about this, Jay should be the first person you call if you have any questions about that, because there's a whole process, and if you do it out of order, you're shooting yourself in the foot. You really need to contact the right person at the right time. So, but we're going to get back to our tribute in just a moment with about talking about the passing of the legendary Fred Smith. Before we do that, though, we want to talk about our friends over at Groundworks, because Groundworks is all about the protection of your foundation. Jay, you deal with everything above the foundation, and Groundworks takes care of what's below. Yeah, and every foundation is different. I mean, you may live on a, you may have a slab, you may have a basement, you may have a crawl space, you may have a combination of all of those. And boy, I mean, without a healthy foundation, your home, it's one of those things. For one thing, the problem does not improve with age, Allan. I mean, you don't just wait around and go, well, that big crack in the in the slab is just gonna
it's like saying that hole in your roof's gonna heal up,
right? It doesn't, and it's something that you really do want to be proactive. Today we've been talking a little bit about proactive home ownership, and so the good thing is when you call Groundworks, for one thing, it's a free inspection. They're going to come out, and they don't just show up and walk around the house. They actually bring equipment. They have detecting equipment. They have cameras. They have, more or less, you're getting what's the equivalent of a medical exam on your home, and then they're going to print out and show you the results they found. They're going to show you, if they ran that camera into the crawl space, they're going to show you what they discovered. Hopefully you get a clean bill of health, but regardless, what you're going to get is accurate information. And if you do have any problems with your foundation, they're there to help you, and they can handle it from the smallest projects all the way up to full, a full rebuild of your foundation. But it's also just one of those things that you can't ignore, and foundation health is just critical for your home. And as we said, the inspection is free. So get in touch with our friends at Groundworks. Go to groundworks.com and book your inspection today. So, well, you guys, we were talking about Fred Smith. Allan, you were talking about all the logistics. You were talking about the audacity. But Jay, okay, let's just suppose you pull this off. You get the trucks in place. You get the planes in place. You get all of the logistics in place. Well, if you can't operate this and make a profit, the business is collapsing as well. There's, like I said, I could see a million ways this could have gone wrong, man.
Yeah, I always think about the famous, I think it's Abe Lincoln quote, that most people quit just right before they're fixing to get what it is they really want.
Mm-hmm.
And how dangerously close that Fred was to not making this happen. And the old blackjack story, and 40 years later, look at it, what it is. I mean, it really encourages me when I read his story to, just do not give up. You're closer than you think. It may not seem like it. It may not feel like it, but you can't trust feelings a lot of times. And if you know you're working hard and you believe in your idea and it lines up with you spiritually, man, you got to keep on going. And it's really, really inspiring to me, his story.
Yeah, because I think everybody, people here in the Mid-South know it. If you're listening outside the Mid-South, Allan, maybe it's worth telling the Fred Smith blackjack story because now it's true, right? It's not some urban myth because I've heard this.
No, it's true. Yeah,
okay.
He's told the story live before. I think there's some footage
I was
of
about
him
to say,
telling the story.
it's a legend, but he told it.
Yep.
So,
Oh, okay. So wait a minute. But,
all right, is there proof? Is there a blackjack dealer sitting there going, yeah, let me tell you about the time Fred did this.
Okay.
This is a Fred Smith story. So, when we say opening a business is a gamble.
Literally, yeah.
I think that explains the blackjack story. It's just, you bet it all sometimes, and sometimes you win, and sometimes you don't. And Federal Express, better known now as FedEx, they spun the dice a number of times. They bought a new company, nearly went bankrupt. Technology changed, nearly went bankrupt. Brought in new technologies, nearly went bankrupt. I mean, so FedEx has had so many ups and downs. You look at their stock reporting over the last, since 73, of their great big highs, and there are some tremendous lows. And this is when Memphis really learned the word stock split. Because FedEx would periodically split their stock. So if you had 100 shares, rather than 100 shares at $100 a share, they just turned around and said, how about this? You got 200 shares at $50 a share.
Okay.
Well, but guess what happens? A year later, you now got 200 shares at $100 a share.
Okay.
And FedEx comes along and goes, we need to split this again.
Okay.
So, this was a lesson Memphis got to learn in international and high finance.
Gosh, I wish I'd have had stock in FedEx
exactly.
At the beginning, so it's like, yeah.
That's where if you were an early participant, you'd be 40 years of stock splits and highs and lows and dividends later. And, any number of average everyday people, they made some money, took some chances.
But the thing about the blackjack story that sticks out with me is that basically, folks, it's like that he was down to his last funds, and he brought $5,000 to Vegas, won $21,000, and by virtue of that, he was able to make his payroll. Well, I guarantee the payroll is not $21,000 anymore. I mean, it's amazing to me because it speaks to, boy, what a lean operation it would have been back then if that's enough to keep him in business. Because, I mean,
I think initially they call them the Dirty 30. There are 30 pilots and I think 7 aircraft, if I remember right. That's how it kind of got started. And I believe, didn't it start in Little Rock? I think it started in Little Rock, actually, before they moved to Memphis. That's what I've heard.
They were flying in and out of both airports. So there was a great synergy between the two because it was which one was easier to get to and who could we get out of.
I see.
Okay.
And if we needed to throw it all in a truck and run it to one city or the other, you could be there in 2 hours.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of just absolutely, we're going to do this. Mm-hmm. I mean, honestly, you talk about being bloody minded.
Yeah.
There was just absolutely a ton of, we're going to make this happen.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a singular personality right there, folks. So, and I'm sure we're in the days ahead, we're going to be seeing documentaries, and I know there already are, but we'll probably be seeing the life of Fred Smith.
I'm biopic movies like they always do.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I hope they focus on the right stuff because this is a person who went to, I mean, let's honestly, he made a business plan and went to his experts. Mm-hmm. He's at Yale. Yeah. I mean, come on, he's at Yale. Goes to the professor and goes, "Hey, boss, what do you think of this?"
Yeah.
And, everybody looked at him and went, "Ooh, wow, Fred, that's a tough one." This isn't like opening a hot dog stand. You want to overnight packages around the world.
Right. Yeah.
The audacity. But, it's 2025, and we still use the name of this company as a verb.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how you know you've really made it. When somebody goes, FedEx this package.
Yeah, we're going to FedEx it to you.
And what they really mean is overnight it, I don't care by what company.
Yeah.
Right. That's a good point.
Here's a little tidbit to close on the FedEx deal. My fiance actually is in the dispatch office at the airport, and she works third shift, which is all FedEx because there's not any passenger travel after 10:30, I don't believe. But did you know that 90% of the revenue for our airport is FedEx?
90%.
90%.
Holy
it's
smokes.
that big of a deal.
It makes sense, Jay, because when you pull up, like I always come in from whatever that is, whatever Democrat Road or whatever, and all you see are FedEx planes. Like they have their whole
It's
section.
massive.
Yeah.
It is massive.
Oh, they're stacked. You can see them however many miles apart they have to be.
I love when you're
but you'll
going
see
down
20 of them.
When you can go down 242 in the evening, especially at dark, it's cool. And about 7:30, 8 o'clock, a little bit later now before it gets dark, but you can see at least 3 in a line. And you could see 4 if you could see that far.
Coming in.
Yeah, they're a couple miles apart, and they just come in like clockwork.
Yeah. It is almost like clockwork. In fact, I was out there one night, Jay, and I think I had my stopwatch, and I was curious, like, how exact.
It was like every
is this
120 seconds,
Right.
here comes that next plane.
Yeah. Pretty cool, man.
Unbelievable.
So we owe a lot to Fred Smith, and he's definitely done a lot for this city as well. So, but Fred Smith, you will be missed, man. So, but Allan, you got your hands into a lot of things this week, and so Allan's Week in Review, we're going to try to pick and choose some of the best ones when we come back here on Tool Talk Radio.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Now, maybe you don't have any tumors. Well, don't worry. If you sat on a folding chair in the lobby and weren't wearing lead underpants, we took care of that too.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, everybody. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com. Our pal Max over there behind the glass, and not Jay Hill anymore. He had enough of your rejoiners, Max. He left. So no, he had an appointment in Atoka. I think he was actually meeting with that woman that he spoke about.
I think he sat on one of the folding chairs in the lobby, so
Exactly.
we better be careful.
Yeah, so Jay, be careful out there, man. Hey, and before the break, we were talking about, we were paying tribute to the late Fred Smith, who is really just a legend in business, and a legend definitely here in the Mid-South. And we're about to move on and find out what Allan did this week. But Max, I think you had a couple little bullet points. Is that right? About something you learned about Fred Smith? Or?
No, it was just more like circumstances around Fred Smith, like his highly successful children and everything. One that was unfortunately taken away a little bit too early. Her name was Windland Smith Rice, and then he also has a daughter named Molly Smith, who's a film producer. She famously made that movie P.S. I Love You.
Oh, interesting.
And then his son Arthur Smith, who dealt with like the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Atlanta Falcons, and so.
And I'll just say it here. I had occasion to meet Richard Smith, and he's just a really nice guy. And actually, Richard Smith was very supportive of he still was supportive of the Memphis Comic and Fantasy Convention. He supported us early when we needed help, and so I'm always going to be grateful to FedEx. They were there to back us up and to provide a little sponsorship. But good people and great family. So rest in peace, Fred Smith. But it's time to shift gears, you guys. So,
the humanity.
Now, Allan, in Allan's Week in Review, you've been on a pretty good streak. You've been mostly doing positive things, and you haven't been getting those midnight disaster phone calls
changed.
of, hey, my pipe exploded. So all bets are off this week. So what did you do, man?
Did that change this week? Oh, my gosh. There is nothing worse than a good friend calling up and going, you got access to a trailer and a truck, right?
That's the first question out of their
That's
mouth.
the first question, not how you doing. Like, oh. I will say this. The most expensive word in the English language is the word free.
Oh. Oh, in other words, hey, I got this free collection of such and such, or I was given this free dump truck or something like that.
Oh, my gosh. And the idea was I have been given this free piece of furniture. And to say the word battleship doesn't do this thing justice.
Yeah.
It is a desk and hutch, but it is a commercial desk and hutch like you would find in the lobby of a hotel, not your home.
So it's a desk, and then on top of it is probably
a 42-inch wide desk that is 6 feet long.
Okay.
It is
6 feet long.
And it is 6 feet tall with hutch.
Please tell me the top comes off.
Well, the hutch comes off the desk.
Well, I mean, you couldn't move it if it didn't. I mean,
right.
That would
this thing would just be, And where it was located was in the backside of a very large facility. So the front door is like a very, very long way away.
Yeah.
And there is misleadingly a door right next to where it sits. It even looked like a double door. Oh, the fallacy.
Wait, hang on. Did you? I'm assuming you pulled out the tape measure. You did your due diligence before you just started hauling this thing, right? And
no, we just showed up with a trailer and a truck and the stuff to wrap it with, and we were told, we can take it out the back door. So we pulled around back. There's a little walkway and everything is beautiful.
Yeah.
I brought my big old giant, commercial brute dollies with me and a hand truck. And we got inside, took one look at that beast and went,
That reminds you of that quote from Captain America where it's like, no, you move.
Well, but Allan, it is deceiving. Okay, because you're like, well, we got these dollies, we have this stuff. Well, it's only as useful, especially I can picture the scene. A desk could have legs, or a desk could have little fragile parts at the bottom that if you shove a dolly under there, it's going to break or it won't grab properly.
You wish it had legs.
Okay,
because at least you could have took the legs off.
Okay.
This monster. I sent you a picture.
Okay, I'll have to check it out.
This monster weighed in the hundreds of pounds. And, of course, the door is magically 34 inches wide. The desk is 42.
That's insane.
We're gonna do some Tetris here.
What if you turn the desk on its side?
There we go. So this is where you learn the world of blue tape and packaging.
Okay.
You got to wrap this baby in your moving blankets. Tape this baby up.
Makes it wider.
It does. However, then you flip the whole gargantuan thing over onto the dollies. And now, miraculously, instead of 44 inches wide, it is now only 30 inches wide.
It's funny because it's deceived. You would think, turning on its side is going to make it even wider, but
nope. Made it a lot skinnier. So we actually, but now you got to get the wheels over the door. You got to get it through the, So welcome to looking like, three little ants trying to tackle a grasshopper.
Right.
But, we managed to weasel this thing through the door, get it all the way down the sidewalk. But then now you got to get it on the trailer.
There you go.
Because, it's not going to walk itself.
Yeah.
So you discover, I saw an interesting article. Somebody asked, how did they move the statues on Easter Island? And one of the answers from the indigenous writings was we walked them there.
I think I know what you mean.
And what cracked me up was, of course, statues don't walk. And I went, oh, yes, they do if you get them wobbling. So,
but boy, you better stabilize them.
Between there are three of us, so we managed to, kind of wiggle a little this way, wiggle a little that way, dingity, 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 ding. Got this beast onto the trailer. Then you go back and fight the hutch, but the hutch is skinny, so you can do that upright. But now you don't want it all falling out of the trailer. So now you got to rope all of this stuff in. And, of course, it's only 105 this week. So we're all sweating bullets. And the happy news is we got it to its destination intact, unharmed. And waiting for us was 3 new fresh recruits to haul it into the building.
Good, because you've already paid
the 4
your
words
dues,
for today apply to this as well. The will to act.
Oh, my gosh. The will to move. And, of course, you look at this and, you're looking at the person you're doing the favor and you're going, seriously? And they look at you and they go, but it was free.
Yeah.
Like, oh.
Was it free? I mean, you look at all the pain and suffering. How do you put a dollar amount on that?
Well, now I will give them this, because I am sure this thing at some point in its life was exceedingly expensive.
Yeah.
This was very, very expensive. And where it was going was in a big retail display, and it's going to be the centerpiece of the display.
But, but Allan, I really sort of blame you.
Oh, it's a beast.
I blame you for your own. The reason you get these phone calls is because, for one thing, you answer your phone, but also you made the life choice to own a pickup truck. And I'll never own a pickup truck again, man. I remember those phone calls.
I will never own a vehicle other than a pickup truck.
Well, then you're destined for more of this. So.
Yeah, I probably am, but it all happens. Word to the wise, have good dollies.
Yeah, and free labor. But anyway, guys, we got to get out of here, man. What a show. You've been listening to another action-packed episode of Tool Talk Radio. On behalf of my buddy, Allan Gilbreth, and our pal Max over there behind the glass, and the visiting Jay Hill, I'm Joe Thorderson. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
And thank you, St. Vitus.
There we go.